Tonight, I want this to feel more like a conversation than a teaching. So, as I tend to sometimes open up spaces, with cards, like, for example, the Transformational Tuesday call space that just had its last seasonal call. We opened that call with a card pull and some breathing and some presence. And it's 8 o'clock, so we're officially in the money here. About to pull a card. So yeah, starting the conversation tonight. I want this to feel like a conversation, similar to a conversation that I'm going to invite you to if you have not already RSVP'd on 4/20 at 8 p.m. the same time next Monday. So I think the cards have a pretty good shuffle at this moment. I am going to speak to a little bit. Move this candle to the side here. Just a little bit. I picked this one special, by the way. It says, "You're the best." You're the best on it. I picked this one special. Alright, so we'll keep that here. And then we'll just put our cards somewhere here. And then I'm just going to do like a little shuffle here. Probably going to have to move that a little bit off the screen. Shuffle. Okay, so we are in a transit right now that is carrying, and when I say transit, if you don't know already, I do a weekly Substack post called the Sunday Soul Start. That's what it's called, but it's kind of like a report, and it's essentially the energy weather of what we have going on in the cosmos. Each of us has a very unique energy with different gifts, with different challenges that we're here to overcome and surmount in this lifetime, in this incarnation. And because that tool uses astrology and astronomy, as the planets shift and change and move around up there, we get temporary access to different gifts. And I call that, or it's called the transit. I call it the energy weather report. So right now we are in a transit that carries themes of completion, endurance, detachment, discernment, agreements, contribution, and new beginnings. What feels really, really, yes, what feels really, really important to say right now is that these energies, I natively carry too. So I'm speaking to both the study of these transits, as we're going to be playing through these themes tonight. I have 5 questions prepared for this live stream. So as we're feeling through this energy, I, in my energy, have more sensitivity to some of the energies that are in the cosmos right now. And so I'm going to be, I guess, speaking to some of those energies in my answers. So before I do all of that, because that was a lot of words, we're going to pull a card. So we know the universe has our back, and sometimes it can be really, really a beautiful thing to know it with physical, tangible proof, which is why I chose this particular card deck. So I'm going to pick one. This one feels okay. Ooh, okay. So what I usually do, I've flipped this one before. What I usually do is so instead of like you being like, what's the screen say on whatever device, I'll take a picture of this and I'll upload it to my Telegram broadcast channel. So that way, if you want to grab a screenshot, if you want to take it into reflection, show someone else, this was a card that was pulled today, you're able to do that. So this is kind of like what it's going to look like from far away. And I'll be dropping the link in Telegram so that you can get it close up. And the universe has our back with this message saying, I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. And I'm going to translate this a little bit because I've realized that not all of us have the same understanding of consciousness. So with that, I'm just going to move the mic a little bit closer. It's fine where it is. Consciousness. So we all know that feeling of doing whatever it takes to move towards a goal, to move towards, I'm going to put it here for the moment, just so I can really speak to it and try and stay on track. We know what it takes to have an idea, to have a feeling, to have an inspiration, to have a desire, and to move towards that. We live in a culture and a society that prizes things like SMART goals and making it actionable. And it's not a plan. What is the saying? Hope is not a plan. Things like that. And so when it comes to this word consciousness, what I am going to define right now in this moment is that as I present to you on this screen right now, may I identify, right? I think that's the language now. I identify as a woman, human being. There's probably more labels that could go into that, but just let's keep it basic for right now. So I'm a human being and I identify as woman. And so in this womanly vessel of human meat suit, I have these rhythms and these things that like my physical body goes through. Okay? I also, in this human beingness, have a mind. And my mind is, I could do a whole and will and have wrote about the mind and all of its different facets. And succinctly in this moment, better example. Here we go. 3D, 4D, 5D. So 3D, meat suit, diamond, woman, human being, has monthly cycles, has, the physical of what I can see, these cards, that's 3D. The 4D is like the next dimension. So the 4D is actually, gonna nerd out here for a little bit. The 4D is actually what plugs us into the 5D. And I'm gonna get to the 5D here in a moment. So the 4D is the mind. And so this 3D vessel presents things, it manifests in physical 3D form. We have at any given time a number of quantum potentials, a number of things that we can manifest, that we can attract into our lives, into our experience as a human. And our 3D vessels give us information, feelings, thoughts that give us, and thoughts are 4D, we'll get there, but it gives us information about the things that we're attracting into our life from that quantum field. Okay? And so the 3D meat suit, the 4D is the mind, the thinking thoughts. So we have things that we don't like in the 3D. And so when something is presented to us that we do or don't like, let's stick with don't like, for example. When we have things presented to us in the 3D that we don't like, our bodies, 3D bodies, give us information of maybe sometimes there's a swirling in the chest. Maybe your heart beats really fast. Maybe you're anxious, you're excited. Those are two polar, emotions, two sides of the same coin. And so our bodies, they sweat, they get red. There's all different types of things that they do. And our minds, the 4D, they narrate that experience most of the time. The 4D is just talking all the time. It's thinking about the possibilities. It's where the ego, the 4D is where the ego mind lives as well. And it's saying, I like this, I don't like that. It's comparing apples to oranges. It's comparing this color to that color. It's comparing, it's measuring, it's saying we want to be here, but we're here right now. And this is the gap. And how do we incorporate these SMART goals to help us bridge that gap? So that's the 4D. It's always just chatter. And then you have the 5D, which I've come to understand to be like life force energy itself. I was going to say spirit, but I wanted to go even deeper. So life force energy itself. So we as life force energy, the 5D, where everything is all interconnected, we as source energy, also interchangeable, decided to come down into these 3D meat suits to experience our own beautiful magic here in this, I like to call it Earth School, because we have all these curriculums and lessons and challenges to overcome and move us closer towards what we would call our purpose. So we've got 3D, which I attribute to be the body, which I have affectionately referred to my body as my vessel. Then you have the 4D, and that's the mind. It's what we're thinking. So 3D houses feelings, physical sensations. 4D is mind, thoughts, etc. And the 5D is like beyond form. It's beyond thought. It taps us into connection with spirit guides, with ancestors, with archangel energy, with if you're into the Akashic records, it taps us into the alien energy of Lyrian, where we can go into our Akashic records, which is a record of our soul's history of incarnations, if you will, to learn the lessons of past lifetimes that could help us in this lifetime. So all of that lives in like the 5D and beyond. Mind, body, spirit. Mind 4D, body 3D, spirit 5D. All of that I just explained, consciousness lives, I believe, in the 5D. And I use a tool called human design. And in that tool framework, there's something called a magnetic monopole, which is a one-way magnet that is constantly attracting things into our life. And it has these different voices. It's where consciousness really, that I am, lives. So often we identify with our feelings. We notice our physical bodies feel a little slouched. We might be feeling like, some stuff in our head that has us feeling maybe melancholy. That's an identification. And open ajna. Where was I going? Our 3D bodies give us, it's this constant feedback loop. And so consciousness is spirit going through all of these different things. And we do it all uniquely in magnetic monopole, right? Different voices. So those voices are, I am powerful. Okay, right. Back up. Where was I going? So we sometimes this is live stream. This is live right now, actively. We sometimes as human beings make the mistake of identifying with our feelings. We notice our 3D is telling us something emotionally, and we say, I am sad. I am angry that this happened. But really, we are not our feelings. Because if we were our feelings, when that feeling went away, we would go away. But we don't, because we're consciousness, we're spirit incarnate. And so that spirit incarnate has actual I am statements that I'm going to go through here shortly. That's where I was about to get into. And I was like, wait, I got to finish the thought. We also, as humans, have this habit of identifying with the thoughts that are going through our head in the 4D. Something happens in the 3D, and our 4D ego mind says, I don't like that. And it goes on this whole complaint and story. And we, like, as consciousness, and this is the voice that's constantly going all the time, we sometimes get swept up in the melodrama of the ego mind's voice. And we're like, you know what? Right? Traffic. You know what? They did cut us off. Actually, I wonder where they're going, right? And we go on this whole 4D, like, tangent thing. And so sometimes we identify as humans with our thoughts and our feelings, and we believe that we are those things, and we say as such. I think X, Y, and Z. Or I, it's probably a bunch of different examples. But the actual consciousness that we are, I'm going to go in the Telegram chat, but the actual consciousness that we are, there's actual voices for that. And those voices, I'll just run through the magnetic monopole. These are the things that, whether you have these specific gifts defined in your chart or not, we all have access to this energy as consciousness. So the first one is, I am powerful. And with that, I choose, I decide. That is an I am statement of consciousness. Then you have, I am powerful. You have 7-1. I am. Duh. I am lives there. I am who I am. This is an actual gift of expression that comes from this magnetic monopole. You have, I forgive. I am forgiving. That's a voice of consciousness. I am forgiving. Another one is, I am trusting. I trust. I serve. It's another voice of consciousness. We also have, I am vital. And this one actually ties it all together beautifully. I embody my spirit. Some people also say I embody my soul for this particular gift. I have designations on the language between the two of those, but I'll save that for the moment. I am vital. I embody my spirit. I embody my soul. I am supported. I receive. This is a big one. I am compassionate. I share. That is a consciousness narrative. Our human mind bogs that down, but I am compassionate. I share. And the last one, because there's 8 potential gifts in that center. The last one is, I am love. I love. So all of these are actual voices of consciousness speaking through our 3D vessel, the magnetic monopole, our part of our heart chakra. That's the whole thing. Anyway, our magnetic monopole reaches directly up to our throat center. So some of those voices actually connect directly into our voice that we use to put spells in the world of what we want to manifest through our word, through our voice. So I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. To me, that strikes me as unlearning all the crap that we identify with as humans in the 3D and the 4D experience, to recognize that we are 5D consciousness. We are spirits in these meat suits. And while we are, bogged down with the 3D of things like money and relationships, like physical, intimate relationships, bearing children, like those sorts of 3D things, That's only a part of our purpose here in this lifetime. And I believe, this is another belief, I believe that when our physical 3D meat suits die and get buried or cremated or turned into a tree, however you want to take that jam of 3D exit, but once it gets buried, the spirit still lives on, which is why we have so many people now talking about being able to talk to their ancestors. We have mediums, we have psychics, because there's that veil where our spirit lives on. We can still receive messages from the other side. We become ancestors to the people who are still here on the 3D planet. So that's the card. I did not plan to talk about that for that long. I actually have notes of things that I was planning to talk about. So we're going to get into those now. Okay, here we go. So I am doing this live stream, obviously, solo. It's not another person here having this conversation with me. So in order to make that easier, I came up with a few questions to ask myself live, to really answer, to speak to the topic of why we came here tonight. I find that whenever I get a question about consciousness, it takes me on a tangent, but we're gonna get through this. I'm gonna get some water because my 3D vessel is thirsty. By the way, if you have any questions about anything that I just said as it pertains to consciousness, when I upload this replay with the Substack companion article that will accompany it, I will consciously remember to turn the comments on so that if you have questions, that can inform the content direction of where the Substack is going to go moving forward, because I really love talking about consciousness, obviously. So question number 1, to officially dive us into the topic tonight. It did change a little bit from the title that I listed live streamer. So the current working title is Why We Stay Stuck in Old Cycles Even When We're Ready for Change. So the first question I'll be answering when it comes to insight on that: why do we hold on to what we've already outgrown? Why do we hold on to what we have already outgrown? So I have some core points that I want to hit, and I'll flow with these. So sometimes we do not know something is complete, but we are still attached to how we hoped it would turn out. So I'm really actually glad that I kind of went off on that tangent a little bit, because this actually directly ties in. So sometimes we know something is complete. Our body, our 3D body, feels grounded, it feels rested, it feels like, you know what, it's time for something else. But we are attached to how we hoped it would turn out. That's the mind. There's so much mind-body dissonance sometimes that creates that, gap. It's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Second core point: completion is not always the same as physical ending. Sometimes something ends externally long before we let it end internally. A lot of people are not holding on because they're weak. They're holding on because they had expectations, hopes, fantasies, or identity wrapped up in the thing. And I think I mentioned that we're currently in a transit that has completion. It's actually in our sun energy. It's actually like the most powerful energy that's alive for like the next few days right now. It started a few days ago. It's going to last for a few days. The Sunday Soul Start Report has more information about this if you want to go check that out. But gate 42, it speaks to completion. And I'm going to shift gears. I talk a lot about human design, but I'm going to shift gears and talk about this in the perspective of gene keys for a little bit. So the question was, why do we hold on to what we've already outgrown? Given that what's influencing all of us right now is completion energy, and I have this natively actually as a part of my purpose here in this lifetime, understanding how this energy works is what keeps me healthy. So in Gene Keys, 42 has the shadow, the gift 42 of completion has the shadow of expectation. It has the gift of detachment. And it has the highest frequency where we're living aligned to who we are without all the stuff that complicates it. That is when we are in the city energy of celebration. So why do we hold on to what we've already outgrown? That attachment piece, the detachment from the mind. Because like I said, we live in a culture that prizes smart goals and logic and all of these different things that require time and energy and effort to put in place, to write down on paper, to type it out, to put it in your Notion, to do whatever to-do list, checklist, to move you towards the completion, the successful completion of that goal. And so, because the mind is doing so much work to make this a linear, tangible thing that you can go after, between the thoughts and the feelings that commingle as you're going through this process, there becomes a lot of attachment. I've invested so much time, the mind says these things. I've invested so much time in this. Depending on what it is, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this. Like, whatever the goal was, like, you acknowledge that you put work into it. And there's this concept in psychology. This is coming to me from another podcast episode I did, but I think it's the sunk cost bias, where because you've already invested so much stuff, like so much energy into something, that you're afraid of it just being a wash completely. That's a mental construct. So sometimes we hold on to what we've already outgrown because the mind is telling us, well, we've done all these things, and it brings in sayings when it's convenient of patience and just stick with it and all of these different things. But in actuality, our bodies already know in a really grounded way, it's actually time to let go of whatever this thing is. And so there becomes this fight between the mind and the body, and the spirit is just watching all of it. Consciousness is watching all of it, and it's oh, right. And the beautiful thing that I love about human design and Gene Keys, these tools, they bring you back into the body, because the body has a lot of wisdom intuitively, instinctively, psychically, that our minds tend to question, override, or just, mess with. So expectation can keep us looping because we're still waiting for the old chapter to give us what it never truly could. Detachment, in this case, is not apathy. Detachment is releasing the need for the old cycle to become something it is not. So those are just core points I wanted to hit. Sometimes we're not stuck because we don't know it's over. We're stuck because we're still attached to what we hoped it would become, what the mind hoped it would become. And once we start talking about what's over, we also have to talk about what's actually worth staying with. And this brings in the grounding energy that's in our transit right now, also in the Sunday Soul Start Report, which is the beautiful gift of endurance, gate 32. So question number 2, how do you know whether you're being called to endure something or whether you're just overextending yourself trying to save what is already complete? How do you know whether you're being called to endure something, or whether you're just overextending yourself trying to save what is already complete. That's our second question. So, a few core points that I want to hit. Not everything that feels hard is meant to be abandoned. I was actually just refreshing myself on some level 4 quantum human design training materials today in preparation for the event that I'm doing on 4/20 at 8 p.m. Where we're going to be talking about the cycles of transformation and how we go through these 3 distinct phases of disruption, void, and expansion as we continue to move along our path of transformation in this lifetime. So, in that material that I was refreshing myself with, she talks about how struggle is actually necessary for us as humans. There are scientific studies that show that when we struggle with something, it helps our brain actually learn the lessons and retain the wisdom even more. So that endurance piece is really important because not everything that feels hard is meant to be abandoned. Not everything that requires effort is misaligned. But endurance and self-abandonment are not the same thing. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more here in this space, and then, of course, in the live conversation. So Gate 32 brings in discernment around continuity. What is actually sustainable? What has roots? What has real life in it? Sometimes people stay because they think loyalty means never leaving. That's in relationships, enduring a relationship. Yeah. Sometimes people overextend because they fear that letting go means they failed. We've been there as humans, I'm sure. Real endurance has life in it. It may be hard, but it still feels honest. And when I say honest, I'm really talking about that body integral honesty where your nervous system is not freaking out at what you're enduring in that way. So overextension usually feels like force. It feels like a depletion of your life, of your vital, precious life force energy. It can feel like performance, that overextension. Overextension and performance go hand in hand, language-wise synonymously, because if I'm overextending myself, that means I'm overriding myself. My body is telling me something, but my mind is like, well, if you don't do this, then, you might lose that relationship or whatever. And now it's creating this space for me to perform what I think is the perfect thing that's going to keep whatever it is in play. So overextension usually feels like forced depletion, performance, or fear. So a few questions that I just wanted to ask, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Question number 2. So so when we're thinking about this question of how do you know whether you're being called to endure something or whether you're just overextending yourself trying to save what's already complete, you can actually ask yourself a few questions. There's 3 I'm going to read off for you. Does this still have life in it? Am I nourishing something real, or am I trying to keep a dead version of life alive? Really sit with that. And the third question is my body saying stay with this, or is my fear saying don't let go? I have been cultivating and really working on this relationship with self, especially this 2020. We're in April now, so my word of the year for 2026 was personal freedom. We're still in the year, is personal freedom. And with that, I have an affirmation that I actually made as a screensaver. And it says, I stand firm in the decision to choose my soul. So this question of, is my body staying with this? or is my fear saying don't let go, my soul knows that the wisdom that it's meant to intuitively, psychically, and instinctively listen to comes from my body's signals, my nervous system. So is my body actually telling me to stay with this? Is it grounded? Does this feel good to me? Affirmation, it feels good to feel good. I heard somewhere that as human beings, our natural state is bliss. So anything that is clouding that or taking away, detracting from that is something that we have added. The mind, the ego has added to this. So this question of, is my body staying with this? Your body knows. And when I work with clients and use human design as a decision-making tool, we actually talk about the nuances of how their unique energetic blueprint, how their unique body map energy flows, how that gives them the body, like how they can tap into those body signals to know versus listening to the mind, which we've been conditioning to listen to. A lot of fear. Oh my gosh. A lot of fear comes from the mind. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, because literally when I said that, the visual of the like human brain popped into my head. Like, you know how they cut them inside? And what is it? The amygdala, I believe. It's like the size of a pea. And like something so small in our brain houses so much fear that creates all of these like it's crazy. What pops into my head is the Napoleon complex of this like little amygdala like running the program, letting fear run the program, literally. So anyway, wrapping up this question to help you with the question of how do you know whether you're being called to endure something or whether you're just overextending yourself trying to save what is already complete. A really great question you can ask yourself out loud: is my body saying stay with this, or is my fear saying don't let go? Because if it's your body, stay with it. Endurance is a gift that we have access to right now. But if it's your mind and it's fear, let it complete, right? Sun energy, let it complete. Gate of completion. All right. Endurance is sacred. Overextension is not. The question is whether you're sustaining life or just sustaining attachment. And one of the biggest reasons why we overstay or overextend is because we are often still living by old agreements. So I'm live and I don't want to blow my nose, but it is running. So I may have to do that at some point. Allergies in Maryland. All right. So this is coming from part of the energy that I actually have not talked about in the Sunday Soul Start. So in our Saturn and Neptune gates, maybe, don't quote me on that. We have 40 and 37 in transit. And this is actually a channel of energy that connects our willpower, I'll just leave it at willpower, with our emotional energy. And this is an agreement of sorts saying, I feel like, I'm going to nerd language for a little bit. So our emotional solar plexus has emotional energy. It also has this frequency of faith. Emotional energy to sustain a frequency of faith is what it has been languaged as. So emotional energy is turbulent. I know it because I have emotional authority. It's up and down. It's a roller coaster. Plus hormones of being a woman, but we're not going to talk about it. So the feeling energy goes up and down. And maintaining a frequency of faith that what it is that you're moving towards, that you're enduring things to move towards, it requires a lot of faith, that what you have identified as the goal or the outcome is actually the thing that you're moving towards and that you're taking steps towards. Even when the progress is not showing up as quickly as you would like, that's that endurance piece. And so that's the 40-37. It's all about agreements that help you move towards that goal, that life purpose that your soul came here to fulfill in this incarnation. And so, segueing into question number 3, what agreements, identities, or survival rules do we need to question before a new cycle can actually begin? So what are those agreements, identities, and survival rules that we need to question, to let go of, to complete, in order for us to truly have the space, the bandwidth, the capacity to move in a new, more aligned way after something has disrupted our lives, after a new truth, a new insight, a new identity shift has unearthed, for lack of better phrasing right now. So the core points that I really want to hit with this: a lot of us are still living by agreements we never consciously chose. I'm not going to go super deep into this, but the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz talks beautifully about domestication, how as children, as young souls here on this planet, we look to our adults in our lives for leadership of what it means to be like in this world, what it means to be like a perfect human or what have you. And we create all these unconscious agreements because we're constantly, as kids, being told what we're doing is wrong, what we're saying is wrong. We don't know because we're kids, we're too young. And if enough adults tell us that, then that's what we accept as our truth. Oh yeah, we don't know. And that's really when the seeds of doubt start really solidifying. And Gene Keys, as well as neuro-linguistic programming, has a lot of detail. Like I said, I'm combining theory with embodiment in this talk. So agreements, things. So yeah, a lot of us are still living by agreements we never consciously chose. Second point, family rules. Some of those agreements are examples. I did these in bullet points, so trying not to be scripted right now, and I'm loving it, actually. So I'm not trying not to be scripted. I am being not scripted. A lot of us are still living by agreements we never consciously chose. Things like family rules, relationship rules, gender rules, hustle rules. If we're business owners, there's so many people telling coaches and small business owners how to grow on social media, how to do all of these different things to grow their business, XYZ. So hustle rules, safety rules, religious rules, that's a whole nother conversation, as we know, and cultural rules. So some of those agreements protected us once. Believing in some of these conscious things that we accepted of like, oh, that doesn't really make sense, but everyone else seems to like agree with it and they're kind of just going along with it. So seems like if I want to survive in the world, I better agree with that too. And we take that on and we live that out until one day that story, that narrative, that agreement that we have with ourselves doesn't fit anymore. And we got to figure out something new. Disruption, life after major change. So there comes a point where the survival rules stop being protection and start becoming limitation. This 37-40 energy is powerful here because it can bring up themes of reciprocity, community, belonging, obligation, and unseen contracts, right? If we're still telling ourselves something in our 3D mind that our body is having some dissonance with, of like, no, I don't think that's actually true. You're saying this thing repeatedly about money, about relationships, about, speaking your truth. But like, actually, it's creating this feeling in us that's no. It's no, right? It's, Randy from American Idol. American Idol. Oh my God. Is that what I have not watched that show in so long. I think it's called American Idol with like Simon and Paula and Randy. Anyway, they have new people. I think Katy Perry is on there now. But like Randy would be like, it's a no for me, dog. Like that's what we're doing with these unseen contracts, these agreements that we accepted for survival once. Like as we awaken, as we do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness is looking at these rules and these self-imposed limitations is like, it's a no for me, dog, right? The body's like, we're not doing that anymore. And it's the mind that's still holding on to that attachment, right? Going back to the first question of like, but like, we've been doing it. Everyone else is doing it. So this can look like this going back to the 3740 energy is powerful here because it can bring up themes of reciprocity, community, belonging, obligation, and unseen contracts. Unseen contracts can look like, I have to prove my value. I'm free from that. I have to overgive to be loved. I'm free from that. I have to keep the peace. Have to, obligation. I'm free from that. I have to stay loyal to what hurts me. I'm free from that. I have to keep doing it the old way because that's what made me safe. I'm free from that. You are free from all of that. The new chapter often cannot begin until you question the rules that built the old one. So some questions you can ask yourself out loud, feeling into this truth. Going back to the original question, because that was me processing that energy with my notes and my bullet points, and you are your own consciousness having your own human experience. So this question 3, what agreements, identities, or survival rules do we need to question before a new cycle can actually begin? Some questions you can ask out loud. What agreement am I still honoring that no longer reflects who I am? What did I learn I had to do in order to belong, be chosen, be safe, or be loved? This is a juicy one. This is such a juicy one, especially with 42 in our energy right now of completion. What am I ready to unsubscribe from? It's draining you. It's depleting you. It's making you feel like you need to perform all of those things. We don't want that. What do you need to unsubscribe from? Do it. All right. Some of the rules that once protected you are the very rules that are keeping you from your next chapter. So once we begin questioning these old agreements, the next challenge becomes trusting what wants to come next. So let's get into question number 4. Stretch my legs out a little bit. Go! Get some water. Maybe think about blowing my nose. Here we go. Question number 4. What keeps people from trusting the new beginning when they can feel it, but they can't fully see it yet? I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about faith again. Emotional faith. Here we go. Core points that I made sure that I wanted to hit for this space. So number 1, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to number it that way because that's unsustainable. I don't have these numbered. They're bullet points. All right. So new beginnings are comfortable. New beginnings are uncomfortable because they rarely arrive with full proof, full clarity, and a guaranteed outcome. those juicy, beautiful, psychic, intuitive, instinctive downloads hit in a moment, and they land in your body in a way that your body is like, yes. And your mind immediately starts trying to figure out the how. And that's when all of that full proof, full clarity, guaranteed outcomes, because the mind is like, that's different than, like, the ego mind is trying to protect you. It's like, that's different than what we've been doing. That's going to require effort. That's going to be, right? Going back to the first question, that's going to be hard, right? The ego is like, like a teenager sometimes. It's like, that's hard. I don't want to do that. No. And so people often want certainty before they can let themselves begin. Been there. But real beginnings usually ask for inner movement before outer evidence. This is where we can start really talking about faith. It's also where I'm going to take a moment to talk about my native conscious sun gate. What I'm here to do in the world. It's the gate of starting. It's the gate 53, gate of beginnings. And this is where it comes in beautifully because it carries the energy of beginning new cycles. When I actually look up my incarnation cross, which is my like soul purpose here in this lifetime, it's the steward of cycles. And so, of course, this 53 energy being in the conscious sun is what I'm here to do, is my most important gift. And what keeps that healthy is my 42, which we talked about a little bit, which is this completion energy of knowing what to complete unconsciously in the body to make way for this new beginning. So a true new beginning is not just changing your circumstances. It is allowing a different foundation, a different identity, a different pattern to take root. When people don't trust the new beginning, they often recreate an old cycle in new clothing. They often create an old cycle in new clothing. This makes me so happy because we're getting into patterns, and we're going to be talking a lot about patterns in general on Substack, the Telegram group, definitely on the 420 event at 8 p.m. And I literally will be introducing an invitation to a program called Rewrite the Story of Who You Are, breaking those old patterns and becoming who you were meant to be. So I'm like so excited right now. How this is beautifully flowing together with just my little bullet pointed notes. So, all right, so yes, pulling it together, gate 42 and gate 53 together create a strong teaching here. Complete the old cycle honestly, with integrity, so that the new one doesn't have to carry this old residue. I have been really into Taoism of late and getting into the Chinese I Ching part of human design, which dates back like over 3,000 years, which has been really beautiful to just see some of the poetry of like Confucius and how it's evolved. And I'm not going to nerd out too much on that. And there is another Substacker who I love, Words of Wisdom. And he is, in a few episodes, I want to say constantly, but like in a few episodes for sure, I can say with integrity, he talks about how, like the stories of how these students would come to these masters with like these full cups, metaphorically, and being like, I know it, and I just want to like study under you a little bit more. And the master looks at them in their full cups of what they think they know and all this knowledge and all these things, and they're like, you have nothing, you have no room for nothing, for anything new. So that's this residue that I envision with this gate 42 and the 52 of like someone coming and being like, I want this beautiful new beginning. I want this beautiful new life. I want to move in this beautiful new direction. But like, I want to keep like this thing and like these other things. And I really like, if I didn't have to move this, like it could stay. Like if you could just bring in the new stuff without me having to let go of any of the old stuff, like that would be great. And the universe is looking at you, like the master looks at the student and is like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. You don't have room for this new beginning that you're calling in. So when it comes to going back to question number 4, oh my gosh, we're almost done. Question number 4, and then last one, question number 5. So question number 4, what keeps people from trusting the new beginning when they can feel it, but they can't fully see it? Some questions you can ask yourself out loud to contemplate, like I just shared my core points in this right now moment for. Am I truly beginning again? Or am I just restarting the same pattern in different form? And you really have to think about, sometimes it can be helpful to take pen and paper down with this, to name like the truth and to notice where you feel like, as you're writing the truth, notice where it feels grounded to write it. And notice in your body where it feels like resistance, because that's something to highlight and to really look at and sit with the truth of longer. The second question is, what am I being asked to trust before there is evidence? Third question, what would it look like to make space for something new without forcing it into a familiar shape? It's okay for the new thing to look new, to be different. It doesn't have to be the same. A new cycle cannot feel new if you drag the old identity into it. And all of this eventually comes back to voice, because at some point we have to tell the truth about what we know, what we feel, and what we're here to contribute. So question number 5, our final question of the night. What does it look like to contribute your truth before you feel perfectly certain, polished, or fully understood? What does it look like to contribute your truth before you feel perfectly certain, polished, or fully understood? So many people wait to speak until they feel fully clear, fully healed, fully validated, fully ready. But contribution does not require perfection. We have active in this transit, I think one of these is Saturn and the other one was Neptune. Gate 17, which lives in our Ajna, it's the gate of opinions, it's the energy of opinions. And gate 17 can bring perspective, it can bring insight, it can bring mental pattern recognition. And then you have gate 8, which brings, and gate 8 lives in the throat. So it's literally the voice of contribution. It brings contribution, authentic expression, the courage to share what is uniquely yours. Sometimes your role is not to give the final answer. Sometimes your role is to name what is true from where you stand. This is especially potent for people with open throats, like me. I'm borrowing the 8 energy right now of contribution, which is, I guess, what has allowed me to talk for almost an hour now. Love it! But this is especially potent for people with open throats because there can be so much pressure with an open throat, with an undefined throat, to say it right. Because to say it right, there can be pressure to say it right. There can be pressure to be recognized. There can be pressure to be certain. And there can even be pressure to be impactful. But the truth lands differently when it is embodied instead of performed. Oftentimes, that pressure creates space for you to use your voice before the words have actually formed, before the insight is actually ready to come out in the 3D reality. And so responding from pressure to say something feels like performance a lot of the times, because your body knows it wasn't ready. It wasn't embodied. You haven't lived the truth of whatever that insight is yet. So going back to this question of what does it look like to contribute your truth before you feel perfectly certain, polished, or fully understood? And some questions that you can ask yourself to process this energy. And I've been asking a lot of questions. So please know that the 420 space next Monday at 8 is a space. It's a Zoom room. It's not going to be a live stream. We're going to be in a live conversation together. Bring your questions in chat. I invite you to unmute. I invite you to hop out. There will be lots of opportunities for you to engage and to bring with you some of the answers to these questions. With that, here are 3 more. Got like over 20 questions now to sit with. You're welcome. What truth have I been waiting too long to say because I wanted it to sound perfect? What truth have I been waiting too long to say because I wanted it to sound perfect? What if contribution is less about certainty and more about resonance? And the last one, what am I here to share because I have lived it, not just because I have studied it? What is that embodied wisdom that you know from experience? You didn't just hear it. You didn't just, right, as a kid, accept it as this unconscious agreement that you never actually even gave yourself time to find truth in it. You do not need to be finished in order to be truthful. You do not need to be perfect in order to contribute. And if you are in that in-between space right now where something old is clearly complete, but something new is still trying to take shape, that is exactly why I created this space. And when I say this space, I mean this Substack space, especially for my paid subscribers. They have integration exercises weekly. We engage in our subscriber chat. We engage in the comments. Space like that, and space like the one I'm about to invite you into again, that I've been inviting you into just all throughout. So next Monday, 420 at 8 p.m., I am hosting a live conversation on Zoom where we are going to be talking about these cycles of transformation. We're going to be talking about, because a lot of the people that I find I attract into my life, they've already gone through whatever the disruptive thing is. They've already understood that who they are, like who they had a download or an insight and want to be, is not the same as the person that they've been living their life as. And that is a disruption. Some people have actually done human design readings with me, and I've given them information about their life path, and they're like, oh my gosh, I am off course from what my soul came here to do because I've been bogged down in all these other 3D things. So that is a disruption. Getting information can sometimes be a disruption, and we live currently in an age of constant information. I literally call my ChatGPT Bae when it goes into my like money diary of expenses, because I, as a one line, this is a profile thing in human design, but like as a one line, I love information. So Chad's like boo bae. But like we live in a age of information. And one of the things that even I have to be careful with when I take my insights or when I'm connecting patterns and understanding, wow, my grandmother was dealing with this as she was going through her path as a 2-4 manifester. And then she raised my mom, which probably created these patterns. And then my mom was also somewhat raised by my aunt, who also somewhat raised me. So then we've got patterns from like granny. And I go into chat with all of these different things that I'm sitting with. It's going to give me information to help me make it make sense. And if I just read that information and I just accept it as truth and I don't actually embody it, if I don't actually think about it, if I don't actually sit with it, I'm just constantly consuming, at no point does it actually integrate. So this is a space on 420 to help with that integration, to really understand what is it that disrupted the story. What is the story I want to tell about myself right now while I'm in this void, while I don't know what the next step is to become officially the embodied wise person like that I envision myself. Some people use language like my higher self. Like, how do I get there? If you have those questions, that's what the space is for, because I'm going to do a little bit of teaching around, just so we can have all the same language around, you know, what's the disruption, what's the void, what's expansion look like for you. And I'm going to actually have an opportunity to speak with people live, at least 2. I'm planning for at least 2, like heart seat coaching moments in that space before I officially open up the doors for Rewrite the Story of Who You Are, Breaking Old Patterns. And that, since you are here on this live stream, will officially start on May 4th. We're going to have our kickoff party on 4:30. It's going to be a whole thing. But you got to come to 420 at 8 p.m. to learn more about that. So it is 9:06 right now. I have enjoyed this immensely. I've enjoyed your time, your attention, your presence, your energy, your hearts. And I am so excited to see you next week on Zoom at 8 p.m. The link to grab your seat, if you have not already, will be with this Substack article, with this video, in my bio, all the places that you want to have those things. So I will see you there. Namaste. I love you. Oh, my hearts didn't turn on. I love you. And bye for now. Like how? Thank you, Shayla.